Julia Betanova, COO of Million Dollar Baby, and Juan Pellerano Rendon, CMO of Swap Commerce. Come on out, guys. Thanks so much.
Hi, everybody. I know it's still early, but this is an exciting conversation. I'm really excited to be here with this panel. Obviously, you are here for a reason. E-commerce is shifting from search and browse to interact and convert, and there's so much happening with Agentic AI, and this is the panel to listen to if you want to figure out how to solve those problems. I'm joined by Juan, who's the CMO of Swap Commerce, the platform behind the first Agentic storefront, as well as Julia, COO of Million Dollar Baby, one of the country's top children's furniture brands, a parent company to Baby Leto, Da Vinci, and a really cute story. We still have a Da Vinci set that we bought my almost 17-year-old that we also, I know, and it's in amazing shape, and we've been able to convert it as he's gotten older, and then now our 12-year-old's been using it too, and it's withstood the test of time. It's incredible. So when I learned that, I was so excited to be here chatting with Julia. And then Sean from the CEO of Cuts, the brand redefining how men dress for performance, which is very exciting. And as a mom of 2 boys myself, obviously, I'll be coming to you soon. So let's get started, everyone. I'm really excited. One, obviously, you know, Agentic AI, it's a hot topic. There's a lot of jargon in the space. Can you ground us? What is Agentic Commerce in simple terms, and why is it a new sales channel rather than just a chatbot?
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. I think it's pretty simple, actually. The conversation that you hear about Agentic Commerce right now is really more centered around agent-to-agent transactions. So if you search Agentic Commerce on Google or any LLM, that's what'll come up. But really, I like to see it a lot simpler. Agentic Commerce, to me, is using an agent to buy a good or service. So in the context of what's available now, really, I think brands are more so thinking about Agentic Commerce in the way of surfacing in ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or Gemini. And that is certainly one way to go about it. Obviously, you've seen the headlines around Sephora integrating with ChatGPT and Gap integrating with Gemini. And then there's a lot of AI that's going into .com, CX agents, things of that nature. I think what is different about what we've brought to the market is, if you think about the examples around ChatGPT, they are owning the experience, they're owning the data. At the end of the day, their incentives are to keep more consumers on their LLM. And conversely, when you see a lot of what the AI agents on sites are going, .coms are going, those are more about CX, managing returns, streamlining. What we've brought to market is really the first agentic storefront that you're able to own that experience end to end from search, discovery, virtual try-on, and then checkout through voice or chat.
That's amazing. Now I'm going to transition to the brand side. Many brands feel like they aren't ready for AI yet, or they're getting ready, they're setting the foundation. It's so much work that goes into it. Julia, you mentioned during our conversations that Million Dollar Baby is focusing heavily on structured data, which is so important to the foundation. Why is that so essential as a first step? And how does cleaning the house prepare you for agentic future?
Yeah, we started this journey years ago, not just for Agentic Commerce, but just in general, to be able to use any of the AI capabilities. We needed to have very structured, very clean data. So we stood up our own data lakehouse and Databricks and really focused on getting all of our internal data sources structured and organized and connected, but also all of the external data, everything from scraping to our retailers' data. We do wholesale and direct to consumer, as well as all of our D2C, the entire ecosystem. And why that's so important is you can't really do anything if that data isn't structured, right? Especially for Agentic Commerce, you need it to be very clean and consistent, right? And what we mean by that, say you're looking for a natural walnut crib, right? That's under $600 and that's non-toxic. And that's the prompt that you put into your LLM. Well, they're not going to be crawling and reading through all the marketing data, all the marketing copy and all of my beautiful imagery that I've invested so much money and time in. They're going to be looking at the metadata fields, right? And so making sure that every single field is populated consistently, that things like Green Guard Gold certified is in the right certifications. So that part is super critical to make sure that you're speaking with the agents in the language that they understand. And so we're going through and making sure that all of our data structure within our PIM, our Salsify, as an example, in our product information, is very complete, comprehensive, and that we're not just relying on what's in the text. And why that's going to be important is, again, like you may not even know you're not part of the consideration set in the search results that come up in Google or ChatGPT. And so then you're completely out of the consideration, not even in the game.
That is so important. I think a lot of brands are missing that step. So thank you for sharing that. And Sean, for you, obviously you're looking at this from a very long-term, investment and perspective. And, how does preparing for agentic world change how you think about product development and the supply chain 18 months out, for example?
Yeah, so us as a brand, or brands like us, we're dealing with very long lead times. We're dealing with producing a physical good. And so when you're thinking about a technology, emerging technology, one that's already upon us in many ways, a lot of functionality already available, a consumer that's coming along the way, it really has you rushing to get there in 12 or 18 months. And so what we're looking at, it's really three-pronged, and I'll explain why. The first aspect that we're looking at is narrowing our assortment. So wide-ranging assortments, have the ability to get lost in, not to mention much more data that you have to maintain. So we're looking at cuts to narrow our assortment, get more specific, and allow us to develop and deliver ultimately much more curated, poignant collection or line. The second thing that we're looking at is, and this goes with the first aspect, is stock is going to become so important. Stock is already important. Many, if not all of us, are running Facebook ads, scaling to the moon, you run out of stock, it's frustrating. But with agents, they can pick up steam quickly. When you're ranking high, you're going to get a ton of traffic. And if you sell out, that's going to be a horrible signal for that agent. It's going to take plenty of time to get back up there. And there's no way to cleanly take that next product saying, hey, this one's got a ton of stock, shove this one in, like you can with your marketing. So stock is incredibly important. And then, like you were alluding to, it's acting now. Creating a physical good takes a lot of time. There's a lot of thought process that goes into it. We don't deliver it tomorrow. Excuse me. We don't deliver it tomorrow. And so thinking about all those things today, anticipating that the technology that already exists is going to allow the consumer to get there here in the near future, are the three main things that we're focused on.
That's really important. Let's talk about the bottom line. I'm really curious, and I know the rest of the audience is too. Does this really move the needle on revenue? So Juan, this is for you. What are the early performance gains that you're seeing across your client base? Are we seeing lifts in conversion, reduction in returns? What are those gains?
Yeah, absolutely. So far, we have more than 20 brands live with the Agentic storefront, and we're seeing a 2x lift in conversion from their standard.com. We're seeing more time on site. We're seeing 20% reduction in returns through virtual try-on. So the stats are staggering. And I think on top of that, it's a more personalized experience, right, for the consumer and for the brand. Because when you think about it, we're able to actually present a bespoke experience for every single consumer, because no consumer is going to have the same search. So if I'm searching for a trip or a wedding in California, someone else might be searching for a baby shower in New York, and all of those experiences will have different outcomes that the agent will walk you through and get you to the final product, which is why I think it's converting a lot higher. And then from the brand standpoint, you're actually able to control not only how you surface in the LLM, because that's, as Julia's point, that's what we do as part of their onboarding process, but you're also able to control the imagery, the voice, the virtual try-on. One of the brands that we're launching with, confidentially, Paul Smith, we're actually using Paul Smith to be the voice of the agent. So imagine being able to interact directly with him. So I think that's where we take it to the next level of not only being personalized for every single consumer, but also making sure that the brands are in the driver's seat and owning that future of agentic commerce.
Yeah, that's amazing. And not confidential anymore unless everyone in this room keeps a secret. Yes, please. Jumping over to you, Julia, obviously we discussed this a lot on our call, but trust is such a big hurdle right now. And consumers are hesitant to hand over their credit cards to the AI and to just trust that it's going to do what it needs it to do to get the right product and so on. How do your brands play a role in educating the customer and, building that trust?
Yeah, and I think with our products, it's an even higher hurdle, right? I mean, you're buying the first piece of furniture that your baby's going to spend majority of their time in, and so there's so many different considerations. Such an emotional purchase, and it's also very high AOV. And so for us, I do think we have a runway of probably like 2 to 3 years before customers are actually comfortable having the agent execute the purchase. I think for us, it's going to be a very long time where we're just in the consideration and research phase on the LLMs. Now, on the website, though, I think that's going to be a very different story, and we'll touch on that later. But I do think a lot of it is going to be around the personalization, making sure we can answer a lot of their questions. So what we're investing heavily on is having a shopping concierge experience within our site that can actually guide a person, guide a new parent through what's important to them, what are the options, what do they truly need to get the nursery started. I want to mimic it after the same experience that customers have in our store. So we just opened up a store on Melrose, our first Baby Leto flagship. And the way the customer associates are able to interact with them, ask them the right questions, and guide them is exactly what I want to do. And so, Juan, to your point, I think that's exactly where we can get much higher conversion. We can anticipate a lot of those questions and also just reduce return rates as well.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. And I'm excited to potentially go visit that store because I have a lot of family having babies right now. I need to find some good gifts. So everyone's in town right now. You should go check it out. Same question for you, Sean. I'm really curious, obviously around trust and the consumer experience and hesitation. How is Cuts handling that? And what is the experience that you're giving to the consumer to educate them on that process?
Yeah, I think, Trust isn't going to come necessarily from explaining the technology more. That technology is going to become commonplace, and what's really going to, and that's where the mass consumer adoption will come from, with the help of companies like Swap. But where it really comes from, the trust in the process, is that experience meeting reality, the expectation meeting reality. And I think that's a easy way to boil down why a customer would ever return anything. What they expected did not happen. And that's true with this process too. So for all of the front end, explaining the customer experience that they're going to receive, all of the brand imagery, all of the content that you produce as a brand is vital and important, like it's always been, but backing it up with that experience is ultimately what's going to enable that consumer to try this process, then do it again, then trust it, and eventually, relinquish some of the process to the process by that great brand experience. And I think that's really going to be the differentiator between brands that are able to harness this early adoption, become a huge player in this new channel, are the ones that do a great job of providing, understanding of how a product's going to fit, and then have it fit that way. An expectation of how quickly that product's going to get there, and it getting there on time. So less about explaining the technology and more about backing it up.
One thing I was just going to add as a watch out for consumers, Walmart has already released a statement, Target followed suit recently, but they've explicitly put it in their terms and conditions that you can't rely on the agent. So as a consumer, the onus is on you to make sure that it's the right product, right? That you're buying the right variant and that you're taking all these things into consideration. And it explicitly says the agent's recommendation may be incorrect, right? And so I think for brands, the big takeaway is you can expect much higher return rates, right? Because maybe there was some type of API feed issue and it got the wrong information. So customer expectation is very different. So I think just from a consumer and also from a brand perspective, there's some major implications when doing business as a wholesaler.
Yeah, and I'll just one more point to add to Julia's point. I think we're really bullish on human-led and controlled agentic experiences. So we don't anticipate that these agent-to-agent transactions, like I would love for an agent to buy me my groceries for me, but I don't think we're going to be there for like 6 to 12 months' time. But in our view, it's really about the consumer driving that engagement, being able to blur the lines between in-person retail and digital. And I think that's what agentic commerce really gives you the opportunity to do.
Yeah, both really good points. And, I'm hearing more about it through podcasts and other areas that I'm listening to. And a lot of you might listen to Diary of CEOs. Steve Bartlett recently in one of his podcasts mentioned that he used an agentic AI to purchase an umbrella for his backyard. He said he had the cameras all set up and said, look through my backyard, see what I need, find me an umbrella that matches, order it. Because he was like, I was sitting out there and the sun was bothering me, and it did all the work for him. I don't think 90% of us are even close to being there yet. So I love that we're working towards that, and the brands here are really intentional. From the early signals, because I know you've both just begun, Sean and Julia, with this implementation, what are the early signals of success that you're seeing?
So we've invested in just SEO optimization to make sure we're appearing at the top. So we did a lot of audits on our metadata, and then also just optimize a lot of the content. So we're getting a lot of traffic from the LLM. So that's really exciting. That's definitely increased. And I think there's a lot of activity happening in the top of funnel, right? Of just people discovering and researching and learning more about our products. But there's not too much activity yet in terms of actual conversion. I think, again, for a high AOV, high consideration item, that still needs to happen on the site for a while.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that is that we're looking at is just the simple fact that there's another being, whatever you want to call it, looking at our site, right? So everything has always been optimized for brand, appearance, how does it look, the user experience. Now that user experience is a little bit different. Those details need to be there. And understanding that it might be lower on the page, but something is reading that. So just paying attention more. Yeah,
great points. On that note, I really want to make sure the audience can walk away with some really tangible next steps, a Monday to-do list, as you will. So in the next 90 days, what are some things that they should be working on or towards to get ready for this? And yeah, I'll start with you, Julia, if you want to share what you think the audience should work on.
Yeah, I think no matter your size, I would just take your, top SKUs, say get like a cut of 50 and do an audit on them, on the metadata fields. And, I think you can get a lot of the instructions. That's actually the easiest part is, you can just ask Claude or Gemini to be like, how do I even do this? And just do an audit, right? I think the latest stat I saw is roughly like 40% of them are complete or accurate and consistent. And so, that's kind of the first step is just like making sure that all of the metadata and all of the fields are filled out properly.
That's a good one.
Yeah, if that is one foot in today, I would say also have your other foot in tomorrow. So everything that Julia's talked about today, and then everything with regards to the future of their business, everything you're planning for today. Think about it a little bit more critically, and how you need to think about how it needs to be different in this world, this new world that we're entering.
Yeah, I think that's really critical. Is the foundation sets the tone for everything, right? So if you do it well up front, which I know we've talked a lot extensively, it will make it so much easier in the future as this starts scaling and moving quicker. So for you, Juan, what would you like to share?
I think from our side, audited this data because my friend tried to fact check me before the panel, but the latest OpenAI data is that there are 50 million shopping queries daily. Now on Google, there's still 900 billion shopping queries daily that are happening. So you're not late to the party as a brand, right? You have the opportunity to move now, today, to not only optimize your site, but also start considering agentic first experiences that are fully brand owned, which is what we're building with Swap. So encourage you to check us out. Our team is here sitting in the front row, and we'll be outside ready to chat with you all. So come check us out.
This is incredible. So many great anecdotes and lessons here, and I hope that this is super helpful for everyone in the audience. Thank you, everybody.